Could this be your year? If so, what do you want 2026 to become?
What if I told you that there's more to it? That there are benefits and resources from heaven that are available to help you in this life, and you've never heard about them? Are you curious? Well, join Gordon Merrill as he digs deeper into making heaven real in this life.
Welcome back to Making Heaven Real. What is in a year? Well, numerology has already analyzed 2026, and they call it a 1 year. When you add up the numbers in 2026, it equals 10, you drop the 0, and you're left with 1. So 1 year, typically, according to them, provides new beginnings, opportunities of personal encouragement, courage to start something new or start again, an opportunity to plant seeds that will come into fruition over the next 9 years, reclaiming direction and identity, pursuing creative sparks and fresh ideas, and stepping into your own truth and into your life's plan. But you say, I don't really know what my life's plan is yet. Well, maybe all you need to do is listen to that quiet spark inside of you. We've been talking about your heavenly equity, your spirit team, the spirits who've gone on before, all of those people who are around you trying to help. If we look at 2026 from Chinese zodiac calendar, they say 2026 is the year of the horse. But not only the year of the horse, it's also the year of the fire horse. Something that, according to their calendar, only happens once every 60 years. The last time they, on their calendar, had a fire horse year was 1966. I dare say there's a lot of people listening who weren't even around in 1966. The rest of us may not want to talk about it. But the year of the fire horse, according to the Chinese zodiac sign, symbolizes a dramatic period of passion, courage, innovation, radical change, and bold action. If you were to sit here right now and think about all of those options that were just laid out here in that last statement, how would that impact your 2026? What do you expect to see on the other side of that same year? For those of us who've recently lost someone and have been dealing with grief, obviously we're expecting and hoping to channel that in the proper direction, learn from it, and use as much as possible our abilities to communicate with them and allow them to continue to guide us through our life. That's a good start for 2026, don't you think? Yes, we have people who have concerns, and we have people who are still working on trying to handle their grief, and we have listeners who are working towards where we're going to go in 2026 and what's next. But if we are using our heavenly equity team and our spirit guides and our spirit council to help guide us, let's look forward to what we're going to do. Let's look forward to what our goals would be if we use this time to take on leadership, to take risks, to follow our gut, to act boldly. What do you think heaven would want you to do? during this year. Like I said, we've talked about our Heavenly Equity Team and our Spirit Council and what they are there to help us to do. So how do we hear that? How do we come up with that? How do we make that connection? How do we get that communication to work for us? You know, and back in episode 2546, we discussed how the term of spiritual but not religious has come about. 7 in 10 adults describe themselves as being spiritual in some way and pursuing and looking into their spiritual journey, while less than 4 in 10 are involved in a church. So simply from those two figures, we know people are looking. We know people are wanting to connect. We know people are wanting to have that connection, that conversation, where they hear from Spirit. I have to kind of laugh when I talk about this, because initially when I was struggling with trying to hear from my wife or from God during the intense grief, I actually heard back through our medium friend that she jokingly was telling me I had a cast iron skull. Simply because I was trying to hear, but couldn't, or didn't recognize it. When I go back and look at it, yes, there's lots of evidences to where she had answered. Lots of evidence pointing me towards items I was trying to find, or things that I couldn't find in the house that I needed to have as a record in order to move forward. There was always evidence of her speaking to me, whether or not I was tuned in or could physically hear it. When I first started to hear her talking to me, it sounded like a quiet whisper in my head. Can you imagine if you're in a coliseum or an auditorium and there's a concert going on? Most all of those are very loud, some of which require ear protection. But imagine the person next to you is trying to whisper to you, and you're trying to tone in and clue in on the conversation that person is trying to convey. Now, on the other side of things, consider sitting at home by yourself, quietly, nothing else going on. Now, how much better do you hear that whisper? Spirit is always around. Spirit's there ready to talk to us. In some cases, we have somebody that's extremely close to us. If you have experienced the death of a close spouse, that person is probably the one who's standing at the front of the line trying to talk to you the most, trying to get you to hear them the most. If not a spouse, you've got another family member, but somebody is at the front of the line trying desperately to initiate communication with you. Now, we've also talked about how we can limit God simply by our free will and turning things off. How about if we look at the other side of that free will? How about if we get up every day and the first thing we do is use our free will to engage those spirits who want to talk to us. A lot of what goes on in heaven, a lot of what's available to us, simply needs our permission to engage. So if we get up every morning and the first thing we do is talk to our spirits, in my case, I talk to my wife and say, it's another new day, another day to work on our life's plan. Thank you for everything that you've accomplished with us over the last couple of days and everything that you've done for us. And feel free to connect. Feel free to engage. And feel free to be what I jokingly call my incident commander in charge. Doing that allows them to not only communicate, but allows them to kind of coordinate and head up your heavenly equity team. We talked back in a couple of the early episodes about the heavenly equity that went in place in order to get her and I to meet initially. And some of that started working months in advance to get all the pieces to fall into place to make sure that that meeting transpired. Your team works to make things happen. I did not know all about all the team back 30-some years ago when things started to happen to make sure that the two of us met. But the team that I have identified now has always been there, has always been a part of what was going on. And they were all a part of what happened from the heavenly equity side of things to make sure that that happened. Let me give you an example. A couple months before she passed, I had a prescription that needed to be filled. I had gone to the pharmacy just like I always do. For some reason, this particular medication had been back ordered. They'd put in an order for it. They were waiting for it to happen. Finally, that particular night, about 7:30 at night, I got a text message telling me it was ready. It was night, it was dark, it was cold, and I was like, okay, medicine's ready. I'm going to run down to the pharmacy real quick, pick it up. When I came out of the bedroom, headed to the garage, she stopped me and said she wanted to go with me. Like I said, evening, cold, dark. Really kind of expected she'd probably just want to stay there until I got back, but she wanted to go with me. So she did. And I've said before, there's all kinds of things about just having somebody that you're that close to that you just enjoy spending time with. Anybody else wouldn't have thought anything about a trip a mile and a half down the road to the pharmacy to pick up a medication and a mile and a half back. But as per usual, for us, just being together, no matter what we do, turned into fun. So we're sitting in the CVS line, waiting to get to the window, listening to our music on the radio, and she looks up some trivia on her phone, and we sit there and just have a good old time. Nothing about that triggered anything any different, except there was just this thought on the back of my mind that I'd been around her long enough. I knew her long enough. Something just didn't seem normal with this decision to suddenly go to the drugstore. After she passed, I did have a time where I was talking to her through a medium, and I asked her, what was that about? There was something different about that. What was that about? And she let me know that in that particular case, Spirit told her to go with me, and that delay kept me from being in a head-on accident and killed. Some of this is kind of interesting if you go back and look at it, just like we did back when we were talking about how all the heavenly equity went into being in order for us to meet. If all you're wanting to do is get me out of the way of a head-on collision because it's not my time, there's so many things that could happen. You could make the light change early. You could make somebody pull out in front of me that makes me slow down for just a couple of seconds. So many last-minute things could happen in order to take care of that. But if you look at it from the heavenly equity side of things, how much planning went into it to know there was this trigger point that could have been an accident, and to back up and plan and put things in place to suddenly make sure that, number one, she was receptive to the idea that she needed to go. And because of that, that put all of those other pieces in place to keep that from happening without having to do a last-minute impulse decision, like changing the light. It's another illustration of how our team plans and executes and handles things for us if we ask and if we give them permission to do so. Would have been a whole lot easier for her and a whole lot probably less effort if she just sat there and waited for a couple minutes until I got back. But she didn't know at the time that she was doing something that our heavenly equity team had put together for us in order to make sure that we were both safe and both still there come the next morning. We've talked in the past about how we're supposed to rely on heaven to guide us through the day and rely on our team to guide us through the day. And don't be concerned about a roadblock you might see 6 months down the road or 6 weeks down the road, because by the time you get there, if your team is allowed to do that, it will probably be gone by then. So think back to the accident. Think back to the pre-planning. I mean, it wasn't that much. It was a couple hours, but we have the pre-planning for us meeting that took several months. We have the pre-planning for the accident that took, probably 30 minutes. Just in the execution. Who knows how long it took to plan it ahead of time. But that's your team working for you. That's your heavenly equity available to you if you just talk to them, if you listen, if you ask, and if you give them permission. So, is it possible? How do we tune in? How do we get them to talk to us? So instead of the auditorium and the concert that we talked about earlier, let's look at this like, let's take some time in the morning. Let's find a quiet place. If you're looking for that whisper from that special person or from your team, let's make it easy for the whisper to be heard. So we'll find that quiet place that we just talked about. Sit comfortably. Put your feet flat on the floor. Actively, intentionally flush your mind of any distractions. To do that, leave all your electronic, mobile, computer devices in another room. Maybe even turn the sound off so you don't hear it even from the other room. Move your focus inside. Take several deep cleansing breaths. Blow them out slowly. Relax. Feel your body relax and your blood pressure come down, and maybe even in your pulse rate. Close your eyes and focus your attention off to the distance behind your eyelids. Look as far out as you can behind your eyelids, almost like you're trying to look for the light from an oncoming train at the end of the tunnel. Now focus your attention not only on what you see, but what you hear. Listen. See if you can hear that whisper. Do you see colors behind your eyelids? That could be the presence of angels, archangels. Remember how I told you there's going to be one person at the front of the line trying to communicate with you? That person can also request and invoke intercession from the archangels on your behalf. So if you see swirls of color behind your eyes, that could be the indication of an archangel. One of the ones I see the most is the color violet. And that is the archangel Zadkiel, who represents unconditional love and comfort. Occasionally when I'm having some concerns or some things that are not going quite right during the day, or I'm feeling especially lonely without my wife, intermixed in that violet, I'll see some green. That's from Archangel Raphael, who's there primarily to heal. And to heal you so that you can help others. Some of the other colors you would see would be indigo, which kind of points to the archangel who's helping you with clarity, originality, insight. Then you got Archangel Michael, Jophiel, Gabriel, providing wisdom, strength, healing, creative process, and helping you to evolve and grow. What else is going on besides just the colors? Do you hear words? Short phrases? Your name? Do you have thoughts that show up in your head that you have no idea where they came from? I think I mentioned once before in a previous episode that I literally will walk around the house and I'll start to have a thought about a question. And before I can finish forming the question in my mind, the answer has already been put there. Do you see pictures clearly in color? The key is whatever you experience during that time, do not talk yourself out of it. Now, some of you are going, is that really possible? Let me give you an idea. If you can make it through the day and you have thoughts that come into your mind, ideas that pop in your head, and you see evidence of temptations, whether it's be email, text message, Facebook, webpage, whatever. If all of that can happen without you thinking about it, asking about it, or going someplace intentionally to find it, what makes you think positive spirits and heavenly spirits can't do the same thing? Why can't we sharpen our focus to hear thoughts from our spirits? Have those positive ideas come into our heads when we have those questions, and see evidence of our spirit guiding our lives for good. There's a lot of things that are available to us, and we can have that available from our spirits if we give them permission. You know, there's been, if you were like me, you probably grew up with a lot of instruction from different religions. You know, we talked about it in one of the previous episodes about how I was taught for years that the only good spirit was the Holy Spirit and everything else was from the dark. If you are concerned about that in any way, here's something that'll help you. We're all pretty much familiar with Archangel Michael and how he has a sword and a shield that helps to protect all kinds of things at heaven's behest. We have the ability to ask Archangel Michael to protect things for us. Again, the ask and the permission. So we start out this process of listening and being receptive to Spirit's communication by asking Archangel Michael to use his sword and shield to protect that communication channel between you and your heavenly spirit team. What better way to go into communication knowing that you have this taken care of than to rely on Archangel Michael to protect that, to make sure that nobody else, nothing else, has the ability to interrupt your communication except your spirit team. You know, we've talked several times about us being spirits who have been sent to Earth for this human encounter in order for us to be able to learn and grow. Once we recognize that fact and we refocus on what we are here to learn, we can reevaluate every day. How have the activities of today helped my spirit to learn and grow and fulfill my life's plan? It's not about perfection. It's about initiation. We talked previously about Daniel and how he purposed in his heart and he made a conscious intention. So it's not about perfection. It's about intention. It's about what we choose to do and how we ask our spirit team to help us. Angel reader Laura Lynn posted not too long ago information that came to her from Archangel Gabriel. So in 2026, Archangel Gabriel tells us that we are not walking into this year alone. You are guided, encouraged, and held. Move forward with a calm heart and a clear mind. Your path is gently opening before you. Allow your miracle to be a revelation of your light. Now, that is making heaven real in this life.
We hope you learned something new about God's love and His resources during our time together. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out. You can find our social media links and our contact info in the show notes. When you're commenting, please reference the episode number. Join us next time as we again search out the ways of making heaven real in this life with Gordon Merrill.